So, hello, I'm going to talk about something deeply exciting and important to me: how to live like a traveler every day. I was expecting a new guy, Ralph from House of Comments, another YouTuber, to join me today. I've never spoke to him online before, done a live stream with him, but somehow he hasn't turned up yet. So, if you want to uh, join me in the live stream, I'm just going to send the invite in the live chat. Um, I usually just look for people who don't agree with me, so that I can test my ideas at them, and they will test me to what extent my ideas work. They'll say, "What about this? What's wrong with that?" And that's why I pick all sorts of random people from different backgrounds, different good things about them. I think Ralph was a very sort of logical and thoughtful person, so he would try to possibly take apart some of these ideas that can't be supported easily by science, because the science isn't quite, as far as I know, um, investigated this in particular depth. Okay, how to have a mindset where you're always excited. I could be wrong. I'm sure there's probably some areas of science, but I've never heard of the traveler mindset, and that's what I want to talk about today. So let's get going with that. Um, Let me do this. So first thing, um, the basic idea is, if you go on holiday maybe 2 weeks in a year or something, and that's the one time when you're excited about your life, and the rest of the time you're just doing stuff you don't really want to do, I think that's a terrible life. I think also when I ask people how you doing, and they say something like fine, it's okay, one of the worst answers is same old, or nothing different. I really feel, I'm not sure how to put this in words, but I really feel they're wasting their lives. Uh, they should be excited. They should be feeling lucky that they're living on planet Earth. And maybe it sounds silly. I'm not sure, but I do feel really sad and disappointed when I'm talking to people who um, don't feel particularly excited about their lives. I'm always excited about my life. How could I not be talking? How could I be talking about how to be excited about your life every day if I wasn't? So um, I'm going to whiz through some of the ideas. It's quite hard without somebody to, let's say, spar against and tell me how I'm wrong. But maybe this is better. I can whiz through the ideas. Anybody in the live chat, feel free to tell me how you feel I'm wrong. Um, so let's start whizzing through this. And by the way, I should have introduced myself. I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes that are for non-Muslims. So the Islamic ideas that can change your life, both in terms of your mindset, your relationships, the outer world, that society, the environment, economy, and things like that. So if you want to check out all the different lessons I do, there's 33, no, 30, 34 lessons in the whole course, going from the basics to social issues to what I call freedom, like the higher level issues. Do check them out at bigquestionsanswered.com. I usually put it in the description, that website. Anyway, so um, as a Muslim, I like to quote things from either Quran or the example of, or the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, and I will be putting a link to all this stuff in the pinned comment so people can check it out themselves afterwards. Um, One saying of Prophet Muhammad is, well, or narration of something that happened in the life of Prophet Muhammad is, he uh, Abdullah bin Umar is the name of somebody, said, Allah's messengers, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, took hold of my shoulder and said, be in this world as if you are a stranger or traveler. and what you're supposed to gain from that. Well, that's what I gain from that. One of them things is this world isn't everything. Don't get attached to temporary goals. I'm actually going to list about 7 goals in a minute. 7, what I would describe as, there's a word. It's the opposite of what you expect. There's a word for that, isn't there? Counterintuitive. That's the one. Okay, so I'll list them in a second, but I'm just going to give you some brief ideas from what I from these sayings, and then I will whiz through them. So, whiz through the 7 ideas that I want to explore with you. If you survive, this is another saying from Prophet Muhammad. If you survive till the evening, do not expect to be alive in the morning. And if you survive till the morning, do not expect to be alive in the evening. Maybe that sounds a bit grim, but I think it's a ticket to freedom, to living a real life. And it might sound a bit like living every day as if it's your last, but it's not quite, because living every day as if it's your last could lead to extreme behavior. And Islam is all about the middle way. So extreme behavior is unhealthy generally. But what it does teach me, this is what I do get from it, is being closer to death makes you more alive. It's one of those counterintuitive ideas. When you think you're going to live forever, and you might say, live forever? Who thinks they're going to live forever? We all do, because we don't really think about our death much, you see. So in effect, we act as if we're going to live forever. But when you realize you're not going to live forever and time does fly by, like I'm 42 now, on an average lifespan is 80, 81 for a man. I've already gone halfway through, and that's gone in a blink of an eye. I'll be another blink of an eye, I'll be gone. Right? That reality check makes you think more harder about how you're living your life. The fact that it's short, that fear that it's short, and have you used it in a way that's acceptable to you, that you're happy with, that kind of feeling, that the fact that it's running out, makes you use your life better, and makes you appreciate more. And so you might say, what's this got to do with, the traveler mindset? Why do you enjoy traveling? Why are you so hyper aware when you're traveling? It's because you know it's a short time you're there, and you appreciate all the little details. And you might say, well, Earth is not so exciting. Where I'm living is not so exciting. It's just because you've got used to it. But people who travel and come to where you live, they find it exciting in different ways. So there is plenty to be excited about wherever you live. You don't have to be traveling. In fact, I should have mentioned that there's going to be 2 parts to this little class I'm doing. And that is, one, the mindset you can have without even traveling, and then why you should travel. And the last point I'm going to quickly make, or last saying, one of my favorites, really. It might not seem so great at first, but I suppose all of these combined are my favorites, but favorite sayings of Prophet Muhammad. I am not in this world, but as a rider seeking shade under a tree. Sorry, I'm ruining it as usual. There's something but I think it's more like, be not in this world, but as a rider seeking shade under a tree. Then he catches his breath and leaves it. So there's a couple of beautiful ideas in there. The idea of, taking rest under a tree, that's not comfortable. But there's something beautiful about it, and there's something important about it not being comfortable. And in short, when I'm getting at one of the ideas, one of those ideas that seem strange that I get from it, is the counterintuitive ideas, is comfort is discomfort. That might sound stupid, but if you think about all those people, all your efforts to make your life comfortable, it's actually really uncomfortable. You become more and more desperate for the world to be all comfortable. and it never is. It never is. So those are the very brief ideas, but let's go through some of these. Some of the things I mentioned, but let's put 7 of them down. Travel mindset. Comfort makes you uncomfortable, or we are more alive when we are closer to death. So what is that about? Let me try to talk about that. We are more alive when we are closer to death. So let's say you you realize you've got cancer. That might not make you feel like you're more alive, but people do all sorts of things that they put off for a long time, right? You're suddenly aware of, say you're, I don't know, you almost die or something, or your whole life flashes before your eyes. So you do become very aware of your mortality. But if you think every day is the same and you're going to be living forever, it's almost like you're barely existing. You can think of people doing boring jobs that they don't really want to do, they just do it. I mean, I suppose I should put some statistics in. Sorry about the screaming in the background, some complaints by the 3-year-old. There are 50% of people hate their jobs. 25% of them actively try to destroy the companies they're in. That's how bad things are, and I'm not surprised at all by that kind of statistic. I've worked in schools, and every school I've been in, pretty much very few of the teachers really like being there, and there's so much politics that. And I'm just not talking about schools particularly. I think it's just a normal state of affairs. The problem with companies at the moment is the people, or the morality of the people. So if the general populace has a low level of morality and doesn't have much direction in life, and they haven't got a positive attitude to life, and you're generally going to have a very negative attitude, and you're going to be generally depressed, and you're going to take it out on everybody. And you're not going to be a nice person to be around, and that's just kind of how companies are. I tend not to work in companies too much. I tend to be self-employed. Probably part of that reason, for that reason. But anyway, so yeah, every time we try to make ourselves more comfortable, we realized, well, it's kind of like a drug. You become dependent on it, and in fact, you become weaker as you seek comfort. So there are kind of 2 different ways of looking at comfort. Makes you uncomfortable. We are more alive when we're closer to death. They're kind of 2 extremes of that one idea. The more you live closer to the edge, the more you're alive. I think people have kind of heard of that phrase and heard of these ideas before. So this is part of the traveler mindset, to not think you're here forever. The more you realize you're not here forever, and you take maybe more risks as well when you're traveling or something, the more alive you are, the more uncomfortable you are. It's also true in terms of holidays, but hopefully when I talk about it in the second part, when we actually talk about when you how to even experience a holiday, don't just sit in your 5-star hotel, because that's just another extension of your house, and you're not really experiencing the country. You kind of have to go out somewhere where you don't speak the language, and it's out of your comfort zone, and then you really experience that culture and the people and how their lives are and how it's so different, and you learn a lot from that. And that's what we really want in life. We want to keep growing. That's what makes us happy. Another idea is we are happier with less. So why is this important? Okay, so first of all, what has that got to do with the traveler mindset? The traveler mindset, what is a traveler? A traveler is a person who has put in a suitcase all the belongings they're going to have. They reduced their dependencies. They're living a simpler lifestyle in many ways for that 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, So they're living with less, they're living more on the edge. Okay, so that's how it's related to the traveler mindset. But how is it even true in the first place? I've been, wherever I've been to countries where people have less, even in one given country where they have less, they tend to be happier and more free. And like I'm a private tutor, and I work online now, but I find like the people where I go where they're richer, even in Jordan, they seem to me more dependent on drugs and seem to be less happy and things like that. And the poorer people is just more simple. And it's something to do with, it's not like money itself is bad, but it's very hard to make good choices. So the more choices we have, the more dumb choices we make. I'll give you a very quick example. That is something like video streaming or something like Netflix and things. So if you have loads of money, if you have no money, you can't afford Netflix. And what do you have to do? Well, you have to talk to your neighbors. But if you have loads of money, you can afford Netflix, for example, and then you end up being alone by yourself. So that's so yes, generally you're happier with less, because you make, you buy less dumb stuff, and you don't imprison yourself with all your dumb stuff that you don't really need. Yeah, I was just checking if the live stream, anybody's joined the live stream or made any comments. So that's just another idea. So one of the reasons why people struggle with having a traveler mindset, okay, being detached from things as part of the traveler mindset, is that they're scared that they'll be less happy. But in fact, if you look around the world and people's experiences, they are actually happier with less. Although all those people who have got less things, by the way, they would say, yeah, sure, give me £1 million. Okay. Because they don't know what it would be like to have £1 million. And even me, I was like, yeah, if you want to give me £1 million, yeah, I'll take your £1 million and probably I'll be happier and stuff like that. But it's actually very hard to make the choices to actually be happy with more money, just statistically speaking. This is another really big thing for me, and that is the small things are the big things. Okay, so why is that important? Am I just saying random things that might sound cool or weird? No, I think this is one of the most important ideas for life, that the small things are the big things. And I realized this by watching a great movie called Up. It's where an old gentleman goes up into the sky with taking along his house using a bunch of balloons. Pretty epic movie, and a lot of reflections on life, very accurate ones. But yeah, it's very. But you might say, did I get these ideas from Islam, or did I get these ideas from the movie called Up? I think. Well, in Islam, we're told, Prophet Muhammad said that if you find any wisdom, I'm paraphrasing, it's the lost property. Wisdom is the lost property of all Muslims, is roughly what it is. Basically, you might find a truth elsewhere, but then you reflect on it, you say, oh, that's actually very much part of Islam. So Islam is all about subtleties. So there's a word called taqwa. One of my daughter's names is called taqwa, which means looking at every tiny detail in your life and adjusting it to improve yourself. Okay, essentially Islam and spirituality is all about subtlety. In fact, God is all about subtlety. God doesn't make himself completely apparent. He makes him, you have to reflect, you have to think. And spirituality, you have to think, like, how am I feeling? Well, how does this action make me feel? These are all subtle things. You have to listen to these subtle things in your life. And you'll find that the really subtle things are the most powerful and important things in your life. So you can buy a really expensive car, and then you'll go, you thought it would make you really happy, but it's just a big, really expensive car that you spent loads of money on, or hard-earned money possibly. and you just get used to it. It's just how your brain adjusts. Yeah, you adjust to all the things you have. So one minute you don't have the expensive car and you really wish it, and then you get a bit of a high when you get that expensive car, and then you just get used to it, how comfortable it is. Your bum gets used to the comfortable seat, as it were, and it just becomes normal to you. And then you need another thing. Like if you think about your life when you were younger, if you listed all the things that you wished you had, you probably have them now, but you're not much happier, right? You just got used to them. So that's just how the human mind works. So getting big things, you might think they make you really excited. They tend not to be, but it's the really small things that do make you happy. And the small things are like genuine conversations. These are very important things that a guy called Johan Hari talks about, in Lost Connections. Like all these different connections, all these kind of meaningful things, conversations, connections with people, connection with your work, and connection with nature and stuff like that. All these subtle things, these are the things that actually make you happy. They're the really small, subtle, and very important things. Okay, so what's next? So small things are big things. I don't know if I could give enough emphasis on that, but I really feel like people are massively wasting their lives. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this file that I'm reading on the screen. It's better that way. So traveler mindset, there it is. Okay. So you can go through it as well if you want. Maybe I'll make it even bigger. Let me see. Can I do that? Nope. Okay. Hide that. Make it a little bit bigger. And maybe, oh, okay. Let's go for 150. Okay. Even 200. Let's go crazy. Okay. So we are happier, we're less. Small things are the big things. One of my most... okay, I'll give you an example of why that's important. Like, I know a friend who's like thought he'll be happy when he goes on a big adventure. He always goes for big things, and he's never really happy. He's like bought a farm, for example, and he got used to it, and it just turned out to be a big drag. For example, he thought, reinventing himself as a farmer. He's an IT guy mainly, but he thought, that would be really cool. And then he wanted to show other people. This is a common thing, that look, I can do this. Look, I've done this amazing thing. And I think deep down, he just wanted to be looked up to. I think a lot of people who make a lot of money, they have an insecurity that they want to be seen as something, be idealized as something, looked up to, or valued in some way. But I mean, everybody needs to feel valued, but some people make a huge effort, I think, in the wrong direction to be valued through things, or achievements and things, right? So, and all these big things, they just don't add up to anything. But as I say, like, okay, if I was talking about, this is something I'm going to be talking about on Saturday, about why do you need to bother getting married? Or it's all the little things. It was just some of the big things as well. You need regular sex and all this kind of stuff. But it's kind of like, yeah, even the sex thing doesn't have to be mind-blowing sex all the time. In fact, that's kind of sometimes a bad thing. It's kind of just the regularity and the small... You might be saying you're talking about living a very boring life. No. I'm talking about doing things you think are important, not doing a whole bunch of things you don't care about, like your job, and a whole list of them, shopping list of them. I'm talking about the small things that make life wonderful. I could take my whole day was full of, and I'm very lucky because I take a very risky lifestyle, so I have more cool things happening in my life. If I was just listing them every morning, I'll talk about my routine at some point. I go out and not even get grapes. I love cleaning the floor off the grapes that have fallen the night before. Because I think there's a beautiful another movie, Kingdom of Heaven, where there's an epic part of the movie where basically it goes along with a saying. It says, "What good is a man who does not improve, make his land better?" It's like wherever you are, make that place a bit better, and I make it a bit better by making it a bit cleaner and organizing the vines a little bit better because they're all in disarray, and slowly it's getting better. And just those small things every morning. And then the next thing I do is I work on an amazing project where it will change the way people work with computers, and I make one incremental improvement, and I look at it and go, wow, that's so cool. It's so much better than yesterday, or a little bit better than yesterday. So I do the outdoor stuff, get in with nature, then some cool software stuff. And the software is very, I think, great because you can affect thousands of people with a bit of effort and a bit of technology and a bit of money. A tiny bit of money can stretch a long way with software. So that's so cool. It's all about meaning, things like that. And I could just keep going on. We had a little outing. I just came back from an outing. We went, I don't even want to bother saying where we went or whatever, but it was just like the little things. Like, oh, those chicken wings, they taste like Doritos. That wasn't interesting. And it wasn't even the Doritos tasty wings from KFC in Jordan. It was kind of like the relationship and the experience. And then my 3-year-old went in the play area, and what did she do there? And it's a really, really tiny thing that you can't really write home about. It's just it's the one-to-one subtle experiences. Anyway, maybe I'm talking too much about that, so let's move. What's anything? Nobody's there. Let me keep going. And you might be wondering, oh, maybe he's getting bored talking to himself. No, I mean, I just think this is such incredible stuff. All the videos I do, I know there are loads of people who are living very dull and boring lives, because they tell me, and they really struggle with their lives and in so many ways, including this way, to be excited about their lives. Very few people are excited about their lives. So I know this is incredibly important stuff. So if somebody's watching and they benefit from then that one person's life changes, fantastic. I did a video yesterday with like hundreds of people watched, but I'm not sure how useful that video was. This generally, in my experience, the most important of my videos get the least attention, and the least important get the most attention. And that's not surprising at all. It's just how human beings work. The Quran even talks about this idea that if you follow the majority, you're led away from the way of God. And the way of God is a beautiful way of life, right? But most people miss that mark. They don't go anywhere near it. So we tend to go to the less important stuff. I was talking about categorizing people. Am I a Muslim, basically? And people are very tribalistic, and tribalism is what engages people more than true ideals of making the world a better place. But anyway, so that's why I don't really care about views and stuff like that so much. Just am I doing the right thing? Am I doing really important stuff? And then that way you stay really excited. I suppose I'll say it now, even if it's not the right order. I've got a friend who kind of feels deflated that he was stopped from doing videos a bit like me, right? But he wanted to do in Speaker's Corner, and he was told he can't do it for whatever reason. It sounds a bit weird. Who can tell anybody what to do? But basically, we're part of a Muslim community, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And he was feeling deflated, but there's so many other ways he could achieve his same goals. He could do live streams like me, but he's feeling deflated because his goal was not as pure or directed to the right stuff. His aims weren't meaningful enough, and if they were meaningful enough, he'd just find a new way of doing it. But it was directed at the wrong things, I think, maybe just to win an argument or something like that. But he's better than most people. At least he made the effort to do that. Most people are too scared that I know were too scared to even make those videos. So yeah, and this kind of stuff, by the way, all these things, these are kind of things I talk to, like the friend I'm talking about, one-to-one. I talk to different people one-to-one a lot. And these are the ideas that change people's lives, and they go, yeah, this is what I need to work on. So anyway, so if loads of people can watch these videos, great, and maybe think about them and possibly change their lives. Okay, stuff will never be enough. We want meaning. I've kind of mentioned this in a way. So and what's that got to do with the traveler mindset? You see, in one of the sayings I mentioned, it's like, be a traveler in this world. This world is the temporary stopping place, the station, the place is that, and don't get attached to these temporary goals in this temporary world. And it's never enough. Our souls were designed not to be happy with these temporary things, even though they're quite enjoyable in some ways, right? But if you make the things of this world the goal of your life, then you'll definitely be disappointed, and you'll definitely not be excited. You'll only be aching for more and more, because you'll get stuff and you'll want more. Okay, you only get excited when you look for the invisibles. That's another thing I talk about, the spiritual things. Okay, so stuff will never be enough. We want meaning. This is based on psychology. Viktor Frankl, who talks about meaning is the heart of happiness. Okay, so yeah, so if you're not feeling excited, that means you've chosen. If you're not feeling excited every day, you've chosen a goal that is basically selfish. The more selfless your goals are, the higher your aims, your higher your aspirations, not into the making money and stuff. You can make money as well. Even making money can be a good aspiration. So like making money to reinvest in, do more good stuff, but not just making money itself. That's usually when you're lying to yourself, where you're really only interested in making money. You want to do something good while making money. Okay, so what else is there? We want to struggle towards goals but not achieve them. That sounds really mental, okay, but it's very, very true. So first of all, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, there's a dopamine system that rewards you for working towards goals. And there's there's another word, what's the word? This kind of excitement. There's when you're working towards something, there's a bit of excitement working towards it. Some of the word that I should remember. But when you achieve goals, it's usually an anticlimax. You get that big car, you're happy with it for a minute, and then you get used to it. So the goals aren't so great, but working towards them is important. Maybe that sounds really weird, but there's a very popular guy, or was very popular last year, I suppose, Simon Sinek, and he talks about infinite goals. And in fact, all worthwhile achievements in life, or any sort of achievement, any serious achievement, is related to infinite games. Did I say infinite goals? It's infinite games. He talks about, like, for example, business. There's no time when you stop doing your business. You want your business, or you might say you want to sell your business and things like that, but any serious business, you just go on forever. Okay. And the game is to keep playing. I can't remember all the fantastic ways he expressed how Simon Sinek talks about it. This is something to search, infinite games, and the importance of infinite games in improving your life. But like, say you're trying to save the environment or run a business or doing anything, all these kind of serious, worthwhile things, they have no end. They are infinite games, and you are a player in that infinite game, and you are working not really just to beat your competitor in the game, but just to keep going without dropping out, and to add value and somehow make a difference or something like that. So I maybe I need to learn how to express how great Simon Sinek's Infinite Games idea is. You might say, what has that got to do with a travel mindset? Because again, it's very similar to the previous point about stuff is never enough. If you have a traveler mindset, you're saying planet Earth is just a stop before you get to the real destination, as it were. Okay, and even that real destination, heaven, hell, whatever, they're supposed to be infinite. So how can I say this? So if they're infinite, yes, basically you're designed for an infinite journey, and Simon Sinek's ideas perfectly fit with that. The way our souls were made, our souls were not made to get to a very limited goal in this life, because we're never satisfied with it. We're made to get used to it and want more. If you realize that about yourself, then what you'll do is you'll just keep going. You enjoy the idea of not necessarily finishing a goal. You might, for example, choose an incredibly difficult goal, or so I'll give you an example. I'm working on making this piece of software that kind of, let's say, not reads your mind. It's just kind of cool. It understands what you're trying to do, so you no longer have to press buttons. So let's say I make that, right? I'm trying to make I always actually do have goals, and lots of small goals, but that's just to work towards them, so I know a destination where I'm going. But when I achieve that goal, that's never going to be the end, because then I'll say, let's take it to the next level, add more features, and then I've got a rough idea of this being the beginning of how we interact with the computer at all, with everything, not just one piece of software, but getting all software to work like this. Software has always become more and more intuitive. There might have been many years ago when you press play on the YouTube, I can't remember how it was, but there was always, I think in the original YouTube display, the play button was always there, but now it disappears when you don't need it. You just tap on a screen. There's lots of intuitive things that happen on screens, and that's the way the world was working, and I'm just trying to participate in that by making things a little bit better. So what's the Apple guy called, Steve Jobs, making a dent in the universe, making some sort of difference in the universe before you move on to the next world. Okay, we want to struggle towards goals but not achieve them. So I talked about the things you own you. So this is related to the idea of resting under a tree. We spend our whole lives often trying to get comfortable. I've kind of talked about it right in the beginning. It was the first point, wasn't it? But the reverse of trying to get comfortable, being comfortable is uncomfortable, etc., etc. I suppose is the things you own you. Like you buy, I don't know, the expensive car again, or maybe I don't know, expensive laptop, or let's say an Apple laptop is a good example, because usually they're like 2 times the price with half the features. But when you have that, you want other people to appreciate it, and you feel sad if people don't appreciate it and things like that. It starts to control your life, and you have to spend so much money to buy it in the first place, and then you get used to it, and people don't appreciate your very old Apple laptop or something. So I wonder, has anybody? Nope, nobody's there. What happened to you, Ralph? Ralph, seriously. Anyway, anyway, so the things you own you. Again, I've taken that from another movie, but this is a very old kind of spiritual idea as well. I've taken it from Fight Club. Hopefully you know it. Where the guy basically strips down his life from all these things. He makes fun of this kind of the IKEA mindset, where you just keep buying stuff to somehow describe yourself, all these weird things from weird names with weird designs, just to say something about yourself. just like what people do with tattoos now. Maybe I should do a video about tattoos. It used to be only drug dealers and hairy bikers would wear them. Now all the cool people think they need to wear tattoos, but usually it shows, I would say, mental anguish. I don't like to say mental illness. I think everybody's got some sort of mental illness. Mental illness is what I describe akin to spiritual illnesses, where you're doing things that are harmful to yourself. Everybody's doing something slightly harmful to themselves and something they can always improve on. Okay, so things that only own you. Okay, so now let's quickly get to the last bit where I talk about actually traveling. What's the benefit of actually traveling? I'm going to read a beautiful verse of the Holy Quran that inspires me on this. Zoom out a little bit. 150. Oh, mankind or humankind. This is an old translation. Don't think it's sexist or anything. It's just old habits, let's say, old style. So, oh, humankind, oh, humanity, we have created you from male and female, and we have made you into tribes and sub-tribes that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable among you is the sight of Allah, as He who is the most righteous among you. Surely, Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. So, in any translation of the Quran, it's hugely lacking. And one of the ideas, when it says you may know each other, it's and by the way, you can verify what I'm about to say by going here. You click there, and you'll see. Oh, I think this is really useful too. Let's say click here and make sure 5-volume commentary is on, and then you can see the deeper meanings of the things I'm going to talk about. 49:14. Okay. So, yep, same verse here, and then you can click here. You can see all the meanings, okay? And it talks about this idea that it's not just know each other, but know the good things about these different tribes, different groups in humanity. So you might say, why did God make different races and stuff like that? It causes so many problems. In fact, it gives an opportunity for the different groups to outstrip each other in good things, so that when you travel around the world, you go, wow, these guys did this better, and we do that better. Maybe we could copy that good thing from those people, and we could keep learning from each other. Just like we learn from individual human beings, we can learn from societies, and traveling is brilliant for that. Really, if you haven't traveled to, I don't know, even traveling to another country, going from England to Scotland, things are very different. But going like from the West to the Middle East or the Far East, you really realize that what you think are the rules of how the world operates, all the default things that, in England, you never make eye contact, and you think that's a rule, that's how the world operates. And then you go to another country where you're expected to smile and say hello, and it's normal and stuff like that, and people are not shy of each other, and of course, that's one weakness in England, that people, are pretty lonely, and they don't make, are not really connected to each other. But there are also good things in England, and they're organized, and they have, banking systems and technology that they don't have in Jordan, for example. So everybody can learn from everybody. It's not a one-way street of learning. So anyway, so what are the 3 things I'm going to wrap up with? When you go traveling, try to do this. Don't just stick in your 5-star hotel. Traveling exposes your assumptions about how the world works by showing you a different culture. Okay, so that's me trying to summarize the idea, but let me try to expand on that. Some traveling exposes your assumptions. So you think you have, I kind of just said it really, you think the world works in a certain way, but in reality, when you go to the other countries, I really feel like going to Jordan is like moving to Mars or something. Everything's completely different, and it challenges those assumptions that you think about how the world operates. And then it just goes like, maybe I could do things differently. Maybe the world doesn't have to be like this. And you learn, and That's what human beings really want to do. They want to, but you don't want to just learn random stuff. Okay, you want to learn stuff that makes you possibly a better person. That's really important. Just learning is pointless. Learning with a goal to making you better, that's what the soul wants. Once you realize, you might say, how can you prove that's what the soul wants? You can test it in your life. These are those subtle things. Like, even, was it self-help gurus say growing is happiness or something like that. I've heard it. And it's very true. So, and it's based, of course, in the Quran, like even the first verse of the Quran, which I've talked about a couple of times. It's like, first of all, God says, I am Rahman, I give you everything. But the Rahim bit, the next quality, the main quality, the root qualities of God is that he encourages you to grow. And once you have the things you need to grow, if you use them to grow, he encourages you more. And that's reflected in the biology of human beings, like in the dopamine system that encourages you to keep growing, to try new things, and do good things. It's amazing. It's amazing that psychologists have realized all of this. Okay, what's this other thing? It shows you things for the first time, making you like a kid. I wrote this on the way back home from our little outing on my phone, so also some mistakes. It shows you things for the first time, making you like a kid, which teaches you how to appreciate the small things, which are the big things, which I said before. So you will see a lot of things for the first time. Today I saw, there's loads of things I want to put on video. It's a bit hard to explain some, but there was like a bin just for slightly old bread, so that poorer people could have them, or maybe it's for animals or something. But people really, really, especially with bread, they really don't like wasting bread. And I remember reading a saying of Prophet Muhammad that you should respect bread. And I think that's a pretty epic idea, because if you respect bread, you respect a lot of other things as well. Other food. We do take, one of the key things to be happy is not to take things for granted. And Islam does a lot of things to help you not take things for granted. And so, that seems to be related to that. But anyway, the point is that was a weird new experience. And that was really interesting. And that made me think, we should respect bread. And that's a really good thing. And helping the poor, or effectively recycling food, and so many good things about that. And that's a little experience. And that was really interesting. Weird little bin that's kind of on a crossroads to wherever. I didn't even know what this green bin was. My wife just said, can you just pop out and put it in the bread bin? And of course, in England, a bread bin is something completely different. It's just like a little container to keep your bread fresh. But anyway, so when you do that, you're, the little things are the really interesting things. And I'll tell you the flip side of it. Going to the touristy things, really, I don't really enjoy them so much. I think I'd enjoy the little things in the touristy things, but the touristy things just, it's just really like, I remember when I went to Petra, I was like, I'm just getting really hot here. Most of it's really exposed under the sun. And you go through, I like going through the little rocks, that get to the supposedly epic thing the picture that you see of Petra with the little temple carved out of the rock. I actually enjoyed going through the rock, the natural rock, and the nice, lovely patterns in them, more than seeing the man-made, chiseled temple made in the rock, out of the rock. Even though it's like 3,000 years old or something, I was like, whatever. So my point is that it's always the little things that I love. And I think when you are more in tune with what you really enjoy, you kind of notice that as well. Anyway, last point to end this video, it forces you to practice new habits. Yes. So there's one thing, theorizing, getting into the travel mindset, and I think that's really good. But actually traveling is a different experience. And when you actually travel and you go into another culture, you're forced to do things the way they do things a lot of the time. Unless you're really rich, again, and you can stay in a 5-star hotel and really not experience the culture at all. So loads of people come to Jordan, they barely experience Jordan. They just go to the touristy bits. If you really want to enjoy Jordan, you go to the local shops, the bread shop. I absolutely recommend. Just beautiful smell, the fresh bread and the normal people and the interactions and the beautiful food. The bread is like cake. It's amazing, and it's next to no money, which is really cool in itself. Like poor people can get such amazing food. Anyway, so and it's not just bread; it's all sorts of rusks and donuts and whatever, cakes and things like that. And it's a whole factory, by the way. You literally see everything being made in the stone baked ovens and the machinery and the belts and whatever. It's all freshly made. So anyway, so you in this, yeah. So yeah, I love being in this kind of not decrepit, but this village home, which is far from perfect, and you experience the lifestyle where the water's kind of going off, and we live very simply, and we just bought a sunflower head where you pick the seeds and blah blah blah, all the natural food, get it like we've got from the garden. I suppose that sounds quite posh, really. It is in a way. But it's also very simple, very down to earth. Anyway, that's the end of my video. Hope you gained something from the video. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.